Fishing has been one of my absolute favorite pastimes since I was a kid. And to this day, I still love the feeling of casting a line in the water and feeling the tug of an unknown fish on the other end. In fact, childhood Ben was hopelessly addicted to fishing, and if I wasn't currently obsessed with reptiles and amphibians, I would probably have a fishing YouTube channel. Anyways, today's video features one of my personal favorite species of freshwater fish, the largemouth bass. Now, hooking up with a largemouth bass isn't that difficult a challenge. Young and inexperienced individuals are actually pretty easy to catch on artificial lures. However, for this video, I wanted to feature a fully grown individual. And to do that, I had to have live bait in the form of whole, fresh-caught bluegill. After that was done, I rigged up the bluegill and cast it out into an area with plenty of cover to hide an ambushing predator. After an hour or so of waiting, I already had a taker.
Big one.
Alright, now largemouth bass are a species of predatory fish that are pretty common all throughout North America. Now, a lot of places in North America, this is actually an invasive, introduced species because it is such a popular game fish. Lots of anglers love catching these. I love catching these. They're very hardy fish. They eat pretty much everything. They'll eat crayfish, smaller fish, snakes, baby turtles, little birds, frogs, anything that they can fit in that giant bucket of a mouth. These guys will eat, which makes them a very popular sport fish, and they also fight very, very hard. Now here in the Piedmont of North Carolina, this is a native species to our rivers, our lakes, our ponds. Any water system with enough food for a largemouth bass probably does have a largemouth bass. Now this one was caught out of a relatively small pond system, so for this pond system, this is just about as big as it will ever produce as far as bass goes. But in lakes or river systems where there's more prey and more space, these guys can easily get upwards of 10 pounds. Now this fish is probably only about 5 pounds, but it is still a absolutely beautiful bass. Definitely a mature individual. Let me give her another drink of water. Now, one of the most distinguishing features of the largemouth bass is, of course, the massive bucket of a mouth. Now, lots of people think that bass will kind of grab and bite down on their prey like people do, but it's not the case, actually. When that mouth is closed and it opens, it is so cavernous that it actually generates negative pressure, just like a giant vacuum cleaner. So when that mouth opens up, it sucks in a ton of water, and anything that's close to the mouth also gets sucked in. So that's how these guys feed. They're suction feeders. These fish also exhibit bicoloring, which is something we talked about with alligators. So if you look at the top, you see it's very dark green, whereas the belly is a very pale white. Now that's so if there's a fish under this bass, it sees that white just like the sunshine, but if a frog or something is looking down, it sees that dark green color, just like the pond bottom. Now largemouth bass hunt through various chemical signals. One really cool thing is, on their side, they have what's called a lateral line, which is lots and lots of different nerve endings and specialized cells that kind of hold a little bit of water. That lateral line allows them to feel the electric signals and vibrations emitted by other living things. Sharks also have that lateral line. That's a very powerful sensory organ that allows these bass to be extremely aware of their surroundings, of potential prey and potential predators. Now they also do have pretty good vision. You see those eyes are nice and big, positioned kind of at the front of the skull to give them that binocular vision. And also they can smell extraordinarily well. So while obviously it's a fish, so it doesn't have external nares or outside nose holes like we do, they can still pick up chemical trails in the water and find their prey that way as well. Now, as large predatory fish, largemouth bass are very important to the health of the ecosystem. So in areas where they're native, these are top predators in these ponds. A bass of this size, just about nothing can really eat it. Maybe a big snapping turtle or heron or a big old osprey or something like that could maybe eat it. But in this pond, there's no ospreys or eagles. So these are the top dogs. Let me give her another drink. However, in areas where this species is invasive across the Americas and throughout the world, that top predator status is actually pretty damaging to native fish populations. So these guys can eat a ton of food. A fish of this size, I mean, look how thick it is. It is just eating all day long, right now especially as it prepares for the spawn. So in places where these are an invasive species, largemouth bass can actually be quite ecologically destructive. So it's important to appreciate them for the amazing animals that they are, especially where they're native, but definitely don't support any introduction efforts in streams or ponds or lakes where these guys aren't native, because they are very destructive to native species in places where they don't belong. Now, I've given her a couple drinks throughout this filming session, but I really do not want to leave her out of the water for much longer. We'll put her back in pretty soon. But yeah, just check out that mouth. That is a gorgeous fish. Really glad I could get the species up in front of the camera for you guys. This is one of my favorite fish of all time. We're gonna get her right back in the water and let her go on and keep bulking up for the spawn, which is coming. Such a cool animal.
Alright everyone, that's just about it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed and learned something new about the largemouth bass. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like on this video, and consider subscribing to my channel for new, educational wildlife content, coming on Saturday mornings as often as possible. Also, if you haven't already, go check out my Instagram and Twitter pages at The Wild Report for video clips and photos from my adventures. Thanks so much for watching, and keep adventuring everywhere. This has been Zeno, of The Wild Report, signing out.